Someday, genetic scientists will make lettuce taste like hamburgers.
Would you rather eat an apple that tastes like a hamburger or a real hamburger?
Good point. Let's watch Secret Places in the open air.
Hi there. Welcome to Secret Places in the Open Air. I'm your host, Ivan Taprod. How Dipstick, Nebraska got its name. I'd like to tell you about one of my boyhood heroes, Earl Krieger, who some people say was responsible for giving the little town I grew up in, Dipstick, Nebraska, its name. Earl Krieger lived at a time when Dipstick, Nebraska was called B33. The town was named after its grid coordinates on a U.S. Geological Survey map. Earl was a bachelor farmer, and he was an inventor. He had dozens of U.S. patents in his name. Shortly after moving into town, so he could dedicate himself to inventing things full-time, Earl received in the U.S. mail a patent awarding him rights to the dipstick. He figured the patent was a joke, sent to him by some disgruntled federal worker. He talked about the mistake to the editor of the local county newspaper, a weekly publication, and the paper published an article, much like previous articles it had written about Earl. The article praised Earl for his genius and called him a great man for having invented the dipstick. Mayor Swineborn, who was all things to all people, a man of faith, and a man who drank beer, read the newspaper article, then read it again. He had the idea of his lifetime. He decided to change the name of his town from B33 to Dipstick. Meanwhile, Earl Krieger started working on Ear Gunk Begone, a phone cleaning device, and the Blow It Big bubblegum mouth insert. These were the days before remote control, even before the drive-in movie. Nuclear weapons had just been invented, but highway speed limits were still 45 miles per hour.
Where are we going to get the money?
Swineborn asked his assistant Maggie.
If we want change, we'll need to pay.
They decided to set up a speed trap on the highway that ran through town. They posted one sign that said 45, and a short while later, another that said 20. The second sign had another sign under it, on the same pole, which said, "Fines triple." Money started rolling in. The city's cash on hand ballooned. Mayor Swineborn was everywhere, going to church with his Bible in hand, drinking champagne to celebrate New Year's, drinking green beer on St. Patrick's Day. On the night of Halloween, he wore a clock face as a mask. It was exactly the go-getter image that he wanted to present. The people of the town loved their mayor. They loved his idea for changing the name of the town. But mostly the people just liked to drink beer.
You can't change the town's name to Dipstick,
said hanging Judge Schwartz, who was known for assessing heavy speeding fines.
The U.S. Patent Office doesn't recognize that patent. To call this town Dipstick would be a lie.
Mayor Swineborn responded with a short but steamy affair with Lulu, the cleaning lady. The money from the speed traps kept coming in. Judge Schwartz bought a wig, like judges wear in Britain, and he strutted around wearing it in the privacy of his home. Earl Krieger invented talking soap, the edible shoe, strength pills for toddlers, new ways to clean elephants, a plug-in breast augmentation device, and better ways to plant grass. The people of the town drank beer. When the governor signed the name change permit, Swineborn and Maggie danced around the office. They high-fived each other and bumped their fists. They drank martinis and smoked cigars. The money kept rolling in, even with the interstate being built, even with the speed limit increase to 55.
Statues of steel rust,
said Judge Schwartz, referring to the bronze and steel statue of a dipstick that had been erected in the town square.
You can't teach children falsehoods,
he said of the school boards adopting a new, locally written dipstick curriculum for social studies class.
Signs grow old and fade,
he said of the where the dipstick was invented welcome sign that stood at the midpoint of the point-to-point speed trap on the edge of town.
Our football team is winning, playing like they got a chip on their shoulder. We are now united by a common belief. We share the same perspective on our past. The world may deny it, but we are good people, and our values are right. We are Dipstick. We have integrity. We are true.
As Earl Krieger grew older, he paid less and less attention to the cares and politics and social interactions of other people. He invented the portable sonic nutcracker, and he truly believed that the world would be a better place if people would just crack nuts instead of yelling at each other. Toward the end of his life, he tried to build a camera, which he claimed could see into the human soul and weigh a man's spiritual worth.
God will strike that man down,
warned Judge Schwartz.
It's the Tower of Babel all over again. Men should not dare to rival God.
Earl Krieger was brought to the hospital, where he was given a remote control for his TV. He was also shown a control panel with buttons that he could press to make his bed rise and fall. He found his new environment absolutely fascinating, and he vowed that if he ever got well, he would invent a remote control TV viewing station with a miniature refrigerator and an easy-to-attach catheter that would allow a person to watch TV and drink beer without ever having to get up and go to the bathroom. Unfortunately, the TV viewing station was never invented. Earl Krieger never did get well.
Hey there, Four Eyes. What do you think you're doing?
You're so hot that I'm taking a shower.
Hey, you guys. What's going on here? What's up with up?
It's time to watch the Soul Detector.
The Soul Detector. Human animals are social beings, and the human soul is attracted to other souls. This was the guiding principle that governed the operation of Earl Krieger's soul detection machine. When he turned the machine on himself to test its effectiveness, he could feel his soul reaching out into the darkness surrounding his body, groping blindly toward the light of the machine. He bought himself a Victorian mansion on a grand estate surrounded by a cement wall. The mansion was reputed to be haunted by the soul of a dead millionaire and by dozens of other souls attracted to communion with their own kind. Though the mansion was luxurious and the estate spanned 24 acres, Earl Krieger managed to purchase it for the price of a rundown shack. Earl Krieger was not afraid of ghosts. He mounted his Soul Detector on the back of his pickup, along with a gasoline-powered generator, which augmented the electrical current from his truck. In an instant, the yard was crowded with souls. The machine could feel their hunger, the deep desires which held them together without the connective tissue of flesh. There was the twin who could not bear to depart his brother, the general who could not leave his soldiers, the musician who would never make sounds again. A woman who had died in childbirth reached out for him, into him, her non-corporeal ether penetrating his flesh.
The soul itself is a detector of souls,
was the thought that came to him. He was not sure if the thought originated from himself or the woman. He powered up the generator to its maximum speed, then climbed into the cab of his truck and pressed the accelerator pedal. He could sense the soul of the woman pull away from him, drawn toward the machine. He backed up his truck to the stagnant, oily lake near the edge of town, close to the city landfill, and dropped the machine into the dark water. He watched as the souls of the lost humans shivered and melted, coalesced and dispersed. Earl Krieger felt strangely empty as he drove away from the lake, back toward his mansion. He had expected to feel a sense of accomplishment, the triumphant glow of success. If he only had his machine, he could turn it on and detect what was happening inside of him. Earl Krieger returned to his mansion, his beautiful home, which he had purchased for such a slight price. He never did build another soul detection machine, and sometimes late at night, just before he fell asleep, he would wonder if his soul had wandered away from him and followed his machine into the dark and dirty waters of the lake.
Hey there, dude. What do you do while watching secret places in the open air?
Are you talking to me?
No, we're talking to the wino dude.
I like to take a sip of wine to begin the show. And I usually like it so much that before long I sip a little more. Pretty soon I'm guzzling the stuff down, and it's time for a sociological study of Dipstick, Nebraska.
A sociological study of Dipstick, Nebraska.
You must be Branowski. I'm Mayor Swineborn, the mayor of Dipstick.
I'm pleased to meet you, Mayor Swineborn.
Branowski, this is Jasinski. He's a former auto parts salesman, and he's going to give you a tour of our little town. Branowski here is a graduate student from the university, from up there in Lincoln.
Wow, a graduate student, all the way from the university, from up there in Lincoln.
I'm here to do an academic study on your little town. I'm going to put Dipstick, Nebraska on the academic map.
We eat meatloaf around these parts, just like they do in the military. Watermelon, too. I went to a Chinese restaurant one time and tried to order meatloaf, but they didn't have any. I don't think I could live in a country that didn't serve meatloaf. For fun, we like to drink beer and to watch football games. The young people like going to the games. They take off their shirts and put on grease paint and scream like monkeys. Did you know about football before you went to the university? You never know what kind of weather we're going to get when you come to Dipstick. It might be scorching hot. It might be freezing cold. One minute it's sunny and bright. Then a storm comes out of nowhere. Or even a tornado. They have a saying in these parts. If you don't like the weather, then just wait a while and it will change.
Thank you, Mr. Jasinski. I really enjoyed my time here. You were a wonderful host.
When you get back to the university, up there in Lincoln, you tell your people about the people of Dipstick. Tell them that we're a God-fearing people. Tell them that we eat meatloaf and drive pickup trucks and that we drink beer. We are a proud people, a good people. We support our military. We love our families. We pay our taxes. And we keep our machinery in order. If something breaks down and we can't fix it, we wait for the weather to change.
I was born into this world naked. And then I became a doctor.
We are all naked beneath our clothes.
Thank God for clothes.
Let's watch Mayor Swineborn Jr.
Mayor Swineborn Jr. Sydney, Australia has its opera house. Rio de Janeiro has its statue, Cristo Redemptor, Christ the Redeemer. New York's Statue of Liberty calls out to the world, give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to be free. Yet, if you were to ask a typical person from Dipstick, Nebraska, about the great architectural icons of the world's great cities, you might get the following reply.
One of my neighbors had a cow with 2 tails once. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. The tails would swing up and down, back and forth, like they each had a mind of its own. Yet they'd never tangle. Never, I tell you. It was unbelievable.
You see, Dipstick, Nebraska isn't a place that puts much stock in architectural icons. Surrounding the town are fields with hay bales. Downtown, you'll find the famous discount food store, places to shop like the bargain store, eateries like the combination bank and cafe. Best of all is the shiny 8-stall 4-pump gas station that replaced old Arnie's gas and fish bait pump house. Yet it's not the architecture of Dipstick that feeds the people's pride, it's the people themselves. People like Rachel Wiedmeyer, who is recognized far and wide for making a really great tuna casserole. People never get tired of commenting on the tragedy of her being a housewife. When given her talent for tuna casserole, she could have been a great chef. Time, you see, doesn't stand still. It marches on, bringing changes as it proceeds. That's why great cities like Paris, France, attempt to commemorate great events and fix in time and imagination iconic architectural identifiers for their reason for being. That's also the reason why, in recent years, the people of Dipstick elected Mayor Swineborn Jr., Mayor Jr. as he was affectionately called, to be their mayor.
Of course I voted for Swineborn,
says former auto parts salesman Peter Jasinski.
He's the son of the original Mayor Swineborn, who gave our town Dipstick its name. Mayor Jr. may be an illegitimate bastard, but he's the spitting image of his dad.
In fact, as Peter Jasinski commented, Mayor Swineborn Jr. really was illegitimate. He was the son of the original Mayor Swineborn and Lulu the cleaning lady. When Mayor Swineborn refused to acknowledge his illegitimate offspring, Lulu moved to Omaha, Nebraska, and started a home cleaning franchise. She married a wealthy attorney, and she provided her son a privileged lifestyle and a good education. When her boy grew up, he began to introduce himself as Mayor Swineborn Jr., and he even changed his name to Mayor Swineborn.
Some of us in these parts call Omaha Council Bluffs Sin City,
says Peter Jasinski.
They have a riverboat casino up there. To me, that makes it like Las Vegas, the original Sin City.
So naturally, when Mayor Swineborn Jr. showed up in Dipstick to run for mayor, there were a lot of vicious rumors about him.
Personally, I think it's the high school girls who start these rumors,
says Peter Jasinski.
But who knows? There's so many gossips in this town. What they were saying was that young Mayor Swineborn got in trouble with the law in Florida a couple of times, but that his hotshot attorney stepfather got him off. The rumor mill was also saying that he smoked marijuana and snorted cocaine.
Nevertheless, Mayor Swineborn Jr. won the election in a landslide. People wanted to call him Mayor Swineborn, but he humbly declined the title.
I prefer to just be called Mayor Swineborn,
he said.
Rumor has it that he used to put booze into his breakfast cereal,
says Peter Jasinski. It was also rumored that he took pictures of his private parts and sent them to a young woman named Ginger, who worked on the Council Bluffs gambling boats and had a lot of tattoos. The details of what happened get very sketchy here, but rumor has it that Ginger encouraged Mayor Swineborn to take more pictures of himself and to send them to her, and that she tried to blackmail him. Then a reporter came to Dipstick to investigate the situation.
That's when the rumors really started a-going,
says Jasinski.
It wasn't high school kids making things up this time. It was that reporter from Omaha. He got everybody talking. The thing is, though, even though everybody was whispering the story to everybody else, nobody would say anything bad about Mayor Swineborn to that reporter. They told the reporter that Mayor Swineborn was a God-fearing man, that he ate meatloaf. They said he visited people in the old folks' home and volunteered to help people with their construction projects. You see, the people of Dipstick are really a private people. Everybody pretty much knows everything about everybody else around here, but we keep it to ourselves. We keep it in the family.
After the reporter left Dipstick and returned to Omaha without a story, there was an attempt to have a recall election. Rachel Wiedmeyer's husband, Harvey Wiedmeyer, put a stop to the recall, however. Harvey owned the only clothing store in Dipstick where a man could buy a silk tie. Harvey's brother, Ralph Wiedmeyer, owned a sandwich shop. His brother, Fred Wiedmeyer, owned Dipstick's finest restaurant. His cousin Frank was a grade school principal. So at least for most people, a pronouncement by Harvey Wiedemeyer carried a lot of weight. Mayor Swineborn Jr. not only survived the scandal, he became a better mayor for it. Like his father before him, Mayor Swineborn made sure that he was seen everywhere, going to church with his Bible in hand, drinking champagne to celebrate New Year's, drinking green beer on St. Patrick's Day. On the night of Halloween, he would wear a clock face as a mask, exactly the go-getter image that he wanted to present. As for Lulu the cleaning lady, Mayor Swineborn Jr. would deny to you that she ever existed, as would Mayor Swineborn's dear mother, who is getting on in years and regularly undergoes cosmetic surgery. She is now a model citizen of Nebraska and of the world. The tattooed lady of Council Bluffs also never existed, but was just a figment of the imagination of some muckraking reporter.
So Paris can have its Eiffel Tower,
Says Peter Jasinski.
and South Dakota can have its Mount Rushmore. We, the people of Dipstick, have something that's a lot more better than all that. We have trust in our people. We have a mayor who looks and acts almost exactly like the mayor who gave our little town its name. And if you look real close and are very observant, you might notice that a lot of the people of Dipstick look pretty much alike. There are those who whisper that this has something to do with inbreeding, but we mostly don't talk about it. At least, not out loud anyways.
Thank you for watching Secret Places in the Open Air. At the beginning of each month, we begin broadcasting a new show. Our time slot is 10:30 Wednesday and 10:30 Saturday. So be watching for a new show at the beginning of next month. We also have a YouTube channel. Just direct your browser to ivantaprod.com. Here are some testimonials from our panel of experts.
I like the Ivan Taprod YouTube channel because it makes me laugh, and I'm afraid of what I might miss if I whack out and forget to watch Ivan on TV.
Let me see. I'm not really sure. I guess the reason I like the Ivan Taprod YouTube channel is because it takes me to places where I might not otherwise go.
I like the hot chicks and the sexy models.
See you next time.